lucky to be part of that journey. They got acquired by HP for $1.5 billion a couple of years ago, and we thought it was cool. And 2 years later, another company that building similar technology, but for operations use case, goes IPO for $3 billion. And the state of the art is over here. What's needed is over here. So I think for next 5-10 years, you'll see tremendous stuff in this space.
So $10 billion is what you're looking for.
Probably.
Okay, guys, take it away.
So you mentioned, the tens of thousands of log formats out there. So standardization, exposing all those logs out. I mean, how are you guys looking at this? How are you facilitating the uptake of this technology?
That's a losing battle. Trying to look for one golden standard that every developer in the world will log, not going to happen. So what we have to do is deal with that reality. Even if you get a lot of log data in different formats, how can you make it really easy for different companies with different use cases, with different requirements on how the data needs to look like in the log, still be able to get the answers that they need from the log data in seconds and minutes, and not hours and days. And that's what we want to provide. And we want to actually take away as much off the hands of our customers to go from logs to insights as we can. And software as a service, I think it's a great way because the last generation of products is still an on-premise. You just pay $250,000 to buy the software, then you're going to pay another $100,000 for professional services, and then every time you need new analytics out of it, you'll have your analyst or architects build all of that out. People are looking for answers, and people are looking for proactive answers. If the system is smart enough that it can see that one of your servers is running out of disk space, and by the way, your operating system is already generating alerts for that. The goal is how do you take that and proactively put it at the top, send it to the user, and don't send 10,000 alerts to the user. Send one alert every hour. So all of this technology, 70% of it exists, but the final 30% hasn't been delivered yet. People have built tools today, but people are not delivering insights, things that IT operations folks, IT security folks really need to know about in a much more proactive fashion.
I'll have another one then is, so I understand what you're describing. So how easy are you making it for me, the IT operator, to define the questions or the insight I'm looking for and define and instrument the information that I need out of those logs so that, for example, I could correlate a CPU event with an application, a throttling problem. And how do I bring, so can I go in your platform and just define those rules and those policies and somehow automatically you'll find those answers?
Absolutely. So it starts out by you being able to collect data from hundreds, if not thousands of servers, putting that in first place. So the first big win sounds very simple, but the big win is by having all of this data in one place. Number two, when you run queries, you can ask all of these questions, and you can get the answers literally in seconds. It's a very flexible query language. If people have used Splunk, they would be very familiar with it. So it's very, very similar. So the language, nothing changes. What changes is you didn't have to build the infrastructure. You didn't have to run it. You didn't have to operate it. But that's the thing of the past. Where things are going, we run a Hadoop cluster. When a name node runs out of memory, it starts spitting out messages that looks very different than when it has enough memory. Now, once we figure that out, once we write that rule, why does every HDFS developer, why does every Hadoop user have to write the same logic again? But so far, the vendors in this space never had the data, never could see that you see the same exception on one Hadoop user, same thing on the other one, same thing another place. So now that you have all of this data coming in one place, we can do the analytics. So you don't even have to write the rule. You simply feed us your Hadoop logs, and we send you an alert saying, you know what, your name node is running at 95% of memory. Please go give it more memory.
Let these other guys jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, You talk about people are going to be comparing you to Splunk, and I think you articulated the value proposition of SaaS and doing this stuff in the cloud. And
Right.
but when you're going to have a lot of customers that are not on the cloud, right? And this might be, and you're monitoring servers that are not in the cloud. Do you anticipate security being an issue and do you anticipate security being an issue, and how do you address that?
Absolutely. We take security very seriously. Data is our customers' data. It's probably the most important asset that our customers have. So we take that very, very seriously. We encrypt the data in transit, at rest. We rotate encryption keys every day. We follow really good security practices. And that is the number one question that comes up. But when we walk people through all these security measures that we do, defense in depth, minimum privileges, all of those things are implemented in the system. Many times we provide much better security for the log data than our customers can afford to build. So I think that's a really good question. That's a really important question. But it's almost like I don't stash my money in my mattress, because a bank can actually take care of that in a much more effective way. But we are still a very young company, so we have to build a good track record over time. But I think we are doing all the right things to convince a security conscious person that their data will be very safe.
How many of your customers are actually on-premise generating log files behind the firewall versus cloud-based companies, SaaS companies that are generating data in the cloud?
I see a good mix of them. I think still a lot of people are actually running their own applications in data centers. There is a good percentage that actually has hybrid. They have some in their own data center. They are using Amazon or other public cloud providers to actually provide there. And we also have some customers that are 100% in the cloud. And so we see a whole spectrum of that.
And what's your sweet spot, though?
I think from a sweet spot perspective, we don't really care. I think it becomes much easier when people have already started dabbling a little bit it's more of a mindset thing. If people are comfortable using a service, I was talking to someone from LivePerson yesterday who was telling me that 7 years ago, all the banks were telling him, no way we'll give you your data. And today, many of their top customers are banks. And we are going through a similar phase. For the first time, this technology becomes available as a service. And over time, people will see you get so much of benefit, and there is certain trade-offs you need to make, and the market will move in that direction.
So follow up on that, do you envision it can be a switch sale for Splunk? Is that going to be part of your go-to-market? Like someone who's already adopted Splunk, are you going to go and try to switch it the way the emails, there's a lot of examples of successful companies doing that.
Many of the companies that we actually run into have looked at a Splunk or have been using a Splunk, and they don't want to talk about technology and analytics. They're like, save me from a pricing perspective. I'm paying too much money for this. So far, that was the only game in town. And so a lot of people are actually looking at this because it's simpler, sophisticated analytics, better scale, but also a much more cost-effective solution.
Okay, we're out of time.